The Chronicles of the Beginning and the Chronicles of the End. Prologue. The Fall of Elturel and the Rise of Chaos. After Elturel descended into Avernus, the neighboring holy city literally vanished from the map, dragged down into the first layer of the Nine Hells. Zariel remained in power, ruling over the desolate wastes of Avernus. With Elturel gone, thousands of traumatized refugees, primarily tieflings, fled down the river Chinathar toward Baldur's Gate. Simultaneously, a corrupt politician in Baldur's Gate named Duke Thalamra Vanthampur funded a cult of the Dead Three, Bane, Baal, and Mirkul, to commit a string of gruesome murders. Her goal was to create enough chaos to seize total control of the city and make a similar deal with Zariel to drag Baldur's Gate into hell. With Grand Duke Ulder Ravengard and Vanthampur both missing, Baldur's Gate slowly began to fall into a chaotic stir. 1492 Doctor, the Illithid Invasion. Later in the year 1492 Dr. Dala Reckoning, Illithid, Mind Flayer, attacks on the Swordcoast began. A flying Mind Flayer ship, a nautiloid, started abducting citizens from cities like Baldur's Gate. When the Elder Netherbrain was finally destroyed, the psionic network controlling the Absolute's cult collapsed. The modified Illithid tadpoles inside the heads of thousands of victims immediately died and dissolved. Those who had not yet undergone seramorphosis were instantly freed from mind control. The city survived but suffered catastrophic damage. The upper city, in particular, was devastated by nautiloid bombardments and the Illithid invasion. Rebuilding efforts began almost immediately, often spearheaded by surviving leaders like Grand Duke Ulder Ravengard and the Flaming Fist Mercenary Company. Without their god Brain or the Chosen of the Dead Three to lead them, the surviving cultists either scattered, were arrested, or were hunted down by the authorities of the Swordcoast. 1493 Doctor, the Aftermath and the Companions. Lyzel. Turning against the Lich Queen Vlaakith, she flew off on a red dragon to the astral plane to lead a bloody civil war for the liberation of the Githyanki people. Gale. After the mythical Netherese crown fell into the river Chinathar, Gale returned it to the goddess Mystra and became a peaceful, prestigious professor at the Blackstaff Academy. Asterion stepped up as a leader for the 7,000 vampire spawn released into the Underdark, attempting to build a functioning, non-lethal society for them safely away from the sun. Shadowheart. Fundamentally at peace, she lived a quiet, pastoral life in the countryside, surrounded by rescued animals and her parents. Karlach returned to the hellscape of Avernus to survive, sparking a relentless campaign to find a permanent cure for her engine. Will, status unknown, departed on his own path. Minthara, refusing to live quietly, she actively gathered resources, allies, and intelligence to march on the Underdark city of Menzoberranzan. Her ultimate goal was to overthrow the ruling drow houses and dismantle the worship of Lolth, the tyrannical Spider Queen who abandoned her. She remained as ruthless and pragmatic as ever, viewing the events of the surface world purely as a stepping stone to reclaiming her stolen birthright. Halsin. Once the shadow curse over the lands of Rythwin was finally broken, Halsin's centuries-long guilt lifted. Stepping down as first druid of the Emerald Grove, he found a new calling. Instead of returning to traditional druidic isolation, he relocated to the recovering lands of the former shadow curse, establishing a new settlement and a massive sanctuary. He dedicated his life to taking in dozens of orphans and refugees displaced by the Absolute's cult. He became delightfully exhausted but deeply fulfilled, acting as a father figure, teacher, and protector to a chaotic found family of children. Jaheira returned to her home in the lower city to rebuild her strained relationship with her large family of adopted wards, ensuring their safety after the city's destruction. Resuming her mantle as the High Harper of Baldur's Gate, she knew the city's power vacuum would attract corrupt politicians and criminals. She deployed her Harper spies across the Swordcoast to keep the peace and ensure the city's reconstruction wasn't hijacked by tyrants. Minskin Boo, the iconic Rashomar Ranger and his miniature giant space hamster returned to doing exactly what they do best, kicking evil in the teeth. Minsk established an incredibly chaotic dynamic with Nine Fingers Keen, leader of the city's Thieves Guild. Much to the guild's constant frustration, Minsk effectively declared himself the city's premier hero. He and Boo roamed the alleys of Baldur's Gate, aggressively rescuing cats, stopping muggers, and utterly failing to understand the concept of a subtle, organized crime syndicate. He remained Farron's most pure-hearted, muscle-headed protector.